probably June or July of 2020 on one of the virtual happy hours is when me and Brandon met for the first time, right?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember it because you were literally ripping a beer and recovering a load at like 9:30 at night. Produce load fell off and Brandon's out there smashing. And the first time I met Dawn was on my, I had you on my podcast.
Yeah.
And then Andrew and I, we just recently really met in person for the first time at the TMSA.
Right, and then that's when we sort of planned the whole thing with LTNA and
Yeah.
Troops to Logistics.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the thing is it all started through social media and everything else. Like that's what's been like the craziest part about building everything up from my perspective is like what social media is. If you can use it for what I believe it's intended for, and it is to actually connect people and the right people in general, you know, and then putting out those best practices, especially for our industry, you know, because there's so much bullshit out there. Like, let's call it what it is. There's a lot of bullshit that it can deter people from actually staying in business and everything. And, you know, for me personally, it's like the market that we're operating in right now, you know, like rates are, it's coming back into a broker's market, you know, so rates are trending, you know, I mean, they're changing every day anyway. So it's like, how are you leveraging some of this stuff right now? Like and how are you working with it with your customers more importantly?
Yeah. Obviously we can go on and on about the market. You know, I mean, here recently going into Q4, you know, we've seen a volume decrease across the board, but our margin percentage has not decreased, just our overall volume. So, you know, obviously you want to stay in front of things because once the margin percentage starts decreasing on top of the volume decreasing, then that's, you know, where it's probably headed. So, you know, with the tools we have with, you know, Greenscreens and obviously with Tabby and how it's all intertwined is, you know, we're able to quote everything, stay consistent, make sure that we're reaching out and trying to stay ahead of everything, just like every other broker right now probably.
Yeah, well, it's not though, because there's so many brokers out there that I feel like are tech hesitant, you know, for whatever reason. And like, how many times a day do you have that conversation, Dawn, where it's like, your tool is literally designed to make brokers money, and I don't know how they can look at that and be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to make any money or make more margin. And no, we have that conversation a lot. But look, I think it's part of what we do is just so new. And there's been a lot of snake oil, right? People have app fatigue and they've been burned one too many times. People saying, oh, we do AI, ML. No, you don't. No, you really don't. But we really do. And a lot of what we do is educating as well as selling. It's a very educational, very consultative sell and trying to help people understand it. And frankly, a lot of people, look, the industry has been pricing freight pretty much the same way for decades, and it's been good enough, right? So it's on us to really educate the customer on, okay, why isn't good enough anymore, right? And here's how it could be better. And some people get it and some people don't. And honestly, from our perspective is, we're not going to push somebody who doesn't get it too hard, because that means they're not the right fit for our technology. And, you know, they may come back around, but we have that conversation a lot.
And it surprises me too. And again, during our implementation and still our partnership, like I learned a ton, but people truly don't, in my opinion, fully grasp what buying power is, because the old way is, hey, I need a truck. Okay, well, I'm gonna go to my 3 carriers and send an email out and get a rate, and that's just the way we've done it. But when you talk about pure buying power of taking all your historical data on a lane, knowing that this is the rate that I know that I'm gonna pay based off my history, and put a margin on it with confidence. It takes a leap of faith. I mean, it takes time to build trust and confidence, you know, within your team as well.
Yeah.
You know, myself and Josh, we had some proprietary tools in previous companies, and when we left, it blew my mind that people like didn't bid without a truck in hand. Like I'll pick it up, but I think I was in the industry for 3 years before I actually bid with a truck in hand.
Yeah.
I always spot bid without a truck.
Yeah.
Look at the market and see what's out there, but I'll own it. I don't give loads back.
Yeah.
But it blew my mind of how even today, people, I don't even know how they win spot loads that way.
Well, I mean, just this speed to market, I think that's a big thing right there, is that a lot of these companies that are like a little hesitant, yeah, they'll do it like that, but then what are they missing out on?
Right.
From that standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool how you approach it, is that you have the courage to say, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Let's, I see the direction of where this can go, and maybe I don't have a full understanding of all the things, but let's give it a shot. Let's give it a try, and making that.
We've always said too, if you don't bid a lane within 5 minutes, just you're wasting your time. Just move on, because someone else is already bidding it, or it's already gone. So bid it, be confident in it, and own it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, there's times where you make educational decisions, and that you lose, right? Now, when you have, and I'm not just trying to plug you because you're here, but the the tool is there, and if you're using it, it pulls all that data up so quickly. And I know that, hey, like, I moved this lane 2 hours ago, or I've got all this data. I know that I'm going to pay this, and so it makes it easier. So but yeah, you gotta, if you can make $1,000 off a customer, you gotta be willing to lose $1,000.
Amen to that. I mean, I live by that. It's funny that you're bringing up about quoting on loads without a truck in hand. Like, I mean, we'd quote blind all the time early on, because like we didn't have technology. Like, we had nothing at our disposal. We had our own historical lane history that we would utilize. And then we might make like 3 outbound calls to a carrier, or that we'll post it up really quick and take some inbound to see where the market's at that day. But
100%.
it's like, you don't even need to do that anymore, because you're right. I mean, so you got 5 minutes to provide a rate. If you're going to live and die by the spot market, which a lot of brokers do because they don't know how to operate a contract or even present quarterly pricing to a customer. A lot of people don't even know how to have that conversation, address it, because they're like, well, the customer always sends me same day load opportunities. They do that because nobody has actually brought a solution to them. And if you could take that and actually take data and show them, hey, this is the trend line on this specific lane, where it's going to, for conversation piece, April through August, it's going to sit at this rate. And then it spikes up for your guys' peak season, so we're going to need to adjust our pricing there. And you can go and bring consistent pricing to them. But so many people don't want to do that. It's just like with the market that we're in right now. People are going to try and drive those rates down on carriers, and then what they're doing is they're creating hesitancy from carriers. Carriers aren't going to want to work with me if I'm the cheapest person on that lane. Sure. And it's like, what are you doing? You're setting your customers up for failure at that point.
Yeah. I feel right now we're in RFP season, bid season, with fuel and larger brokers and larger carriers with market share right now, grabbing as much as they possibly can, to get volume. Because again, with margins, compression, and all of that going into Q4, if you don't have margin, what do you got to have? Volume.
Yeah.
If you don't have volume, you better have the other.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like with real-time rating that you're getting, I know spot market opportunities are down, but are you able to kind of capture what you were missing out on through that, or?
I mean, it's hard to gauge. What's neat about the real-time rating is that, if you're a broker and we're looking at the same load board over time, you're going to say, well, there's not as many spot opportunities, but you just don't know it that I'm getting the loads before they even hit the spot market.
Yeah.
So it's really neat to be able to see that in live, and concept, they talk about it, but to see loads that are hitting the API, pricing it, and not going to the spot board, I mean, it's really cool. And I know that there's some other people that's doing it for a while, and it's really starting to catch on, but we felt that it was a really great opportunity, given the partnership between Greenscreens and Hubtek and Neutral as well.
Yeah.
I got to call them out because, again, they push all of our data to Greenscreens, which in turn, with the API with Tabby, able to quote loads in 3 seconds.
Well, I mean,
and we're small.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is for me, it's like, how do you handle that? Because it's like, as you're growing your book of business out, you get so many opportunities that come through at the same time. Like 7 different customers can send you a rate request within 5 seconds of each other. And if you're not responding and you're just going at, from the top down approach, it's like, this is why you need tools like with what you guys have, because it's like, it helps you capture market share. And then there is that peace of mind that comes along with it. Like, this data is actually accurate, and it's not the throw a fucking dart against the wall and hope it stick like it used to be, the run and gun mentality with all this.
Yeah, I would say Tabby, is, through real-time rating and API, probably like 40 to 50 loads a day we're quoting. I know through the real-time rating, our win percent, actually, Dan sent it to me yesterday, it was 28% of win versus bid. We don't have to touch it. Now Josh, this is Josh's lane.
By we, I mean Josh.
Well, I'm saying we partner up on it, but he's the person that is really the nuts and bolts on that part, and we talk about it. But every Monday, we look at the market every day, but we don't go in and adjust every single day, because you got to have some consistency. Either you're consistently winning or consistently losing.
Yeah.
We go in and we'll usually adjust, either beginning of the week or the end of the week. I went up to him 2 Mondays ago, and I'm like, hey, we're quoting a lot. We're not getting anything. We should adjust the rates. He's like, yeah, we probably should.
Yeah.
We should. So, it definitely takes time to refine. But man, it's been a really cool experience.
So how does that work? Because when you're talking and coming through, what data is Tabby using to actually throw out these quotes? Is it through your guys' API?
Yeah, so Tabby is calling our API with a rate request, and we're passing back that rate request rules engine in Tabby.
Right, and so then basically, we've got it set up with a variety of different parameter sets that, Brandon and Josh can look at to say, okay, how does that rate need to be adjusted based on origin, destination, time of day, customer, all kinds of different things, what kind of, equipment's needed, but really to be able to drill that down and make necessary adjustments to go ahead and bid for that. So again, depending on what the market is, you can bring that margin percentage down, or, straight dollar per load of what you want to do. But, you can adjust that however you need to based on, as you said, customer, based on origin, destination. Like I said, we've got 33 different ones that you can tweak based on, the data that's coming in and taking a look at it. And
we pass our info over to Greenscreens, via API, and it's all our historical and current data. So if we were to book a load or even quote a load, it instantly goes to Greenscreens, from our TMS back and forth, and then in turn, Tabby is grabbing it. So we could have an event happen or something within our system change, and we get a price, and then literally 7 minutes later, it would be a different price based on what's going on within the market within our TMS, because it's all connected.
Yeah.
Real time. So I wanted to go back and pull a couple threads. One thing that Chris said, you were talking about helping your customers, right? I think a lot of people would say that they're resource constrained, and that's because they're posting and praying and dialing for trucks. How, with the automation, the automatic quoting and the real-time rating, have you been able to redeploy people to do more relationship management, whether it's with customers or with carriers? Has that been a benefit for you as well?
Yeah, again, when you talk about fully, automating or what can we do to get a load from quoting to delivered, and how many touches, a big piece of that too is, EDI or API connectivity on bringing loads in. So our account managers that manage the day-to-day, for the longest time was appointments, and then trying to leverage, bidding, So how do you leverage your time? Are you putting loads in? So EDI took care of that, and then it was, okay, got to stay on the load board. Then I'm managing exceptions. So, to make a long story short, is implementing that bidding. Now they are literally, managing the customer relationship. They have time to know that stuff's getting taken care of. I can have more meaningful conversations, can be ahead of the game if there's issues, when I say exceptions. So, I don't know how to put a value dollar amount on that. I don't even know if you could. But yeah, it definitely opens up more time for them to cultivate the relationship. And it's been challenging too, because then you look at it and you're like, well, if they're not quoting and the loads come in, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And then and I mean that in the best way. Like, our team works really hard, but you have to shift your mind, because in the brokerage world, like if you're not doing something, or if you're not focused, it's like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? The automation piece opens a lot of that, really think differently. So what are some other things that you can do to make the customer experience better? We're still working through some of that to learn some of it.
Yeah.
But you now have time to think about those things,
Right.
because you're not having to do
Yeah, so one of our account managers, all of her customers are on real-time rating except for one. She's got some good contractual business. So what we're seeing now is we're going into Q4. There's been some RFPs, and then obviously like the spot market's changed a little bit, and it's like, okay, well we got to push, and then I'm like, well, Josh, we really just probably got to change the parameters. How could you go get a bid and get more? And then we're like, oh yeah, that's right. So one thing you have to do, in my opinion, and we're still working through this, is like, with that time, it's like, how do you cultivate that relationship?
Yeah.
How do you get more sticky? How do you solve different problems? So yeah, it's kind of opened up, not a problem per se, but it's a different way of thinking.
Opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity is a good one.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to pull on was, when we talked about us having to educate the customer to win the business, but educating the buyers in the company is just the first hurdle, right? The second hurdle we have to overcome is getting the buy-in of the users and getting them to trust the system. And some companies, we've been more successful of that than others. You have to have strong change management. Can you talk about, what did you do internally from a change management perspective to get your users bought in and trusting?
Yeah. We took your guys' lead on a couple of the points. We made, Green Screens champions and really tried to train them first. It wasn't a perfect changeover, and we still had challenges. I know with the market going up and down drastically, and I tell the story all the time. We had weekly calls up until here recently on working through, getting our algorithm correct, our outliers. And so, when we first, partnered with you guys, it went well. Like, our users, we won some loads, it was quick wins. But I think the market shifted, and then they lost confidence, and we didn't do a good job of communicating and adopting. Now, on the green screen side, we were working with Devin and with your whole team on figuring that out. Because, again, the market changed so quick, and, even green screen's like, hey, the market has shifted. Like, we're working to catch up on it. We know that it's not perfect, but you have to understand that's not perfect either.
No, for sure.
ITS isn't perfect.
Yeah.
So what people have to understand is, like, even when you partner with anyone, like, they're not going to be perfect, and it's not the holy grail. You have to use a lot of different data points to be successful. So getting back to answering your question, we're still working on it. We're still making sure that, hey, they're trusting the system and doing a better job of getting feedback of, well, why don't you?
So even with the Tabby piece, though, you said all, but one of your reps is actually doing that now. Was there fear or resistance of your customer reps in letting the computer take over and and winning that business?
Yeah, honestly, no. And so where we were at, yeah, our team has grown, and the type of business and the way that Josh and I both, bid and in our relationships, we're pretty aggressive. And trying to teach that is hard. It's challenging. The customer reps that we do have are very good, but we were still working with them on to be more aggressive, to make sure they take chances, to make sure that, hey, we'll back you up, like, it's okay. I think their biggest fear was failure, right? And not that we were going to come down on them, but you don't want to take a load and then fail on it, or and vice versa. With the market the way it was, and so much freight, and they didn't even have time to bid, and we had a problem. And that's what we said, okay, well, how do we solve this? We can either hire someone, or we can go with technology. And so for us, it's for them, we're like, hey, we're going to implement this. Ultimately, we want them to be in Tabby, changing the parameters eventually. We're not there yet. But for them, it's like, hey, we're going to have this tool, it's going to bid. You're still going to be compensated on it, but you're going to have to manage more. Okay, great. But for them, it was like, that's one less thing I have to worry about.
Yeah.
We didn't say, hey, we're going to bring this automation in, but you're not going to be involved, and we're going to compensate them the same. We don't change the compensation on that, but obviously they still have to manage the load. And again, if it's a loser, they still have to move it. They still have to own it, just like they normally would. So no, for them, they didn't have any fear, and we're very transparent too. It's like, hey, we're not trying to take your job. Like, we want you to learn how to use this levers and pull and read the market. So that's one thing we're really trying to coach and teach is market and making those decisions and moving forward.
I just think like with everything that's available out there in the market right now, like 95% of our job as brokers should be automated. Like we shouldn't be spending time doing, building shipments, track and trace, anything like that. Like track and trace should consist of one daily outbound phone call, in my opinion. Just to check in on that driver and everything else.
Depends on what kind of freight.
No, I understand that, but you know what I'm saying? Like the people who are out there sending out multiple check calls throughout the day, they're refusing to automate it because they don't use tracking. Yeah. And then when it comes to building loads or anything like that, or quoting loads, they're still out there manually taking it. Oh, how many miles is Nashville going to Houston? Oh, let's put that in Google Maps. And by the time you're doing that, with technology, you can quote out 17 shipments by the time it takes you to manually go through that. And that's what people don't understand is it's like, but then they also have they think technology is there to do something that it's actually not designed for. And then they're building up that resistance. They're like, oh, your product's not working. No, you're just not.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. You're just not using
people,
it.
Yeah, your shit doesn't work.
I can only imagine the conversations that you guys have to say. Your technology doesn't work. Is it user error though? You guys can't say. I can say that. It's probably user error.
I mean, but sometimes you have to have that conversation to say, okay, let's go through how are you using it, and then to walk through and to say, okay, here's something you're either not doing or something it's totally off center from what it needs to be. So,
and one of the pieces that they talked about, the Tech Innovations, they were just talking about it, and one thing that. And I say this again about green screens and we've had some very good vendors, but like the follow up and the customer success, and you guys said, hey, we'll stay on, we'll do weekly calls with you forever if you want.
Yeah.
But whatever you need to be successful, and I think that's why we've had success too, is because we had dedicated weekly calls to making sure that on both ends that things were going well, and if there were issues, and got you and Dan and Scott and Vinny all on teams, like it's just an instant lifeline for those things. We've got Neutral and Slack, so we don't have to email them. Like we just type them a message, hey, can you help me with this, or hey, what do you got going on?
We can get on Slack too, by the way.
Huh?
We get Slack too. We could get that
there you
going.
go.
Well, you know what? Whenever we did the integration, I think we all were in there, like as a Slack Connect.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're teams. It costs us money to do Slack, so.
Oh, all right. Never mind.
Well,
Don't
we
spend any
started
money.
basically at implementation time. We did Slack until we were like up and running.
Yeah.
And then we kind of.
Well, because it worked really well. Like when we connected with Greenscreens, and I want to tell this part of the story too, is like the biggest challenge I would assume is for brokers getting the data to you.
Absolutely.
How are we going to do it? What are my capabilities? And so we were very fortunate in that, again, not Neutral's awesome. Like they're good people.
Yeah.
We were talking to him about a lot of Ed and John and all them over there. But we were talking in one of our calls because we were rolling out Neutral. It's like, yeah, we want to go with a pricing tool, but like we got to get our data to them, and like we don't have the API. And they're like, well, we have your API. Where are you trying to go? Greenscreens? Yeah, I know Don. We'll figure something out. You guys were at a conference, right?
Ed and I were, I think we were at the Armstrong conference in Chicago,
Yeah. And so I think Elizabeth had talked to, had made a couple phone calls, and then it's like, hey, they're at a conference together. I think they're going to have a quick meeting to figure some things out. Like, can it be done? And then I think, was it a call or?
Oh, no, it was BGSA in January. Yeah, that's where it was. Yeah, you played hard to get for a long time, though. You were like...
He's a prima donna.
Yeah, you played hard to get, but no, I think you're right. It was January BGSA conference.
He just needed some cheap wine.
Yeah.
You were shooting too high. You thought he was classy. He's just a country boy.
Yeah. I mean, that calls for
It's a
some
Mad
wine.
Dog 2020.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we definitely need some wine. So that worked out, and then it's like, okay, so Neutral, which are DFM partner, we hooked up. We got in a Slack channel, and Mike over there and Greenscreens. Who were we working with? Was it who's your
Sean?
No, Sean. No, I worked with Constantine.
Yeah.
Yes, is he still with you guys?
He is, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Blue Solo kept before.
Pass that down.
Yeah.
A blue soda.
Yeah.
cup.
There you go.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
yeah. Cheers. Didn't you guys say that I think Sean said, obviously you guys do a lot of implementations, but they said that even with the neutral connection, like that was the fastest like API connection that you guys have ever done.
I think it actually still is.
Yeah.
I think it actually still is.
Yeah.
And look, we are pre-integrated into a lot of TMSs, and for the TMSs we're pre-integrated into, it's pretty much turnkey,
Yeah.
right? It's, we say, great, you're on board, send us your data, and it's turnkey, but you were not on such a TMS, and that's where Neutral came in, and they've been a great partner to both of us in
Yeah.
that. And you're right, it was still the fastest onboarding we've done, I believe, so.
Yeah, I think, when we first get going, isn't it like, 10 weeks before, you're doing the different testing and validation? And I know before we actually went live, we had just got the API, all connection integrated and all that. So it's really neat because again, we can put a load in, or we can move a load, or we can see data. It's instant. It's instant. And then again, when we went with Tabby, just gave him the API key, and Vinny, yep, I've got it. I'm in. We're good. So all the data just flows.
Yeah, I thought he was kidding at first. He's like, "Oh no, we're good." I was
Yeah.
like, "That was fast."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell this story, and they're like, "Dude, how did you come up with that?" And I was like, "It was by accident. Like I didn't plan any of it. It just from meeting people and partnering and saying, hey, could this work? But I said, I'd like to take credit and say, came up with a masterful plan, but it was all by accident. Just being honest.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's awesome.
It's an
It's working, though.
ecosystem of connected parties.
Well, I mean, we just hope that again, all those, and we were talking about this before, is to kind of not open source everything, but still at the same time to have that flexibility to work with, regardless of what TMS, regardless of what tools you have, to have that ability to integrate, because each business is going to look at it differently, and you're going to get different data, and to have things restricted because of whatever, it makes it more challenging across the board. And
Why don't you think there is an open API like that? Because why is there so many hoops to jump through to get an integration up and running?
Yeah, Bain, the strongest man in freight, we were talking today, and he texted me, and he's like, I hate the word fragmentation these days.
I know.
But in reality, it's because everything is so fragmented.
Everything's really, but look, after how many decades, why are there still no true standards for EDI, right?
Yeah.
It's because everybody's different. So yes, there's EDI standards, but there is no standard implementation of EDI, and it's been around for decades, right? And I think because everybody feels they're a little bit special, a little bit different.
like protectionism
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this is our.
Well, and even the data sharing, right? Data sharing, those silos are starting to break down because I think more thought-leading people like Brandon and others like him are now starting to understand the value of let's work together, let's share our data, we're better and stronger together. But those silos have just recently really started coming down. So, I don't know that we'll ever see a single API
Yeah.
that everybody can plug and play
But it's
with.
like, you would think, because it's like if you guys are integrated with essentially the exact same people, why isn't there? Because it's like there should be, again, I understand everybody thinks that they're special in some way, shape, or form, but it's like if it benefits your clients, if it benefits the end user, why is there so much resistance to that? Nobody's really reinventing the wheel in this industry.
Right.
You're just making it more efficient with a lot of the technology that's coming out.
Yeah, look, we're working on it, right? We want to be the pricing engine that powers the industry, and we've actually had a pretty good success rate of getting others to adopt our API instead of us having to adopt theirs, both from a data collection perspective and from a rating request response perspective. All of the TMS vendors have, openly accepted that, which has been great for us because that means we don't have to go build integrations to all these disparate, different TMS systems. And where we can't do that, that's where we leverage partners like Neutral, who they're doing that. But
Well, and again, from a client perspective, your input to your other providers that aren't is absolutely necessary to kind of push them, because again, it's solving for you, and that's ultimately what we all want to do.
Yeah. And I try to, give feedback, whenever it's asked, and I've had several calls, not, for you guys and for Greenscreens as well to your potential providers on feedback, good, positive, and negative, and things that went well and things that didn't go well. But I think, again, like we're all in this together. We're still in $1 trillion industry. There's a lot of pie to go around.
So
like
much.
I couldn't move all of it, and people are silly to think that they're doing something different. The only thing that brokers, in my opinion, now again, this is very subjective, but like the only thing that we can do differently is service.
It is. Yeah, because everybody says they're transparent, we're this and that, until it's your fucking truck that's running late. Then all of a sudden you don't know how to communicate. And it's like if you sit there and think that your organization is not doing it, you are lying to yourself.
People just got to understand, customers don't mind bad news. They just don't like surprises.
Exactly. Like here's the thing. Fortunately, I know a lot of
Bad
shippers.
news doesn't get better with time.
Yeah, it doesn't. I know a lot of shippers that have a lot of large organizations, and they say their biggest pet peeve is when brokers take their ability to do their job away from them, and it is by not communicating when there is an issue, when there is a delay. And everybody knows trucks break down, but they don't always break down 5 minutes before pickup at 3 o'clock on a fucking Friday. Like, let's call it what it is.
Dude, listen, you got to be transparent enough to call your customers, and they know we're brokers, and be like, hey, this carrier, this dropped me. I'm working on it, okay, but I'm going to be late, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
They dropped the load on me, and we're working on it.
Yeah.
And customers, okay, I get it, or get it done.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, we had a flat tire.
Blue turbo.
Yeah.
Oh, the 7th turbo today got blown? Weird.
If you hear one more call, say, regeneration on emissions. Oh, really?
God.
Really? So what are you in limp mode? How are you going to get to the shop?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
But it's true though, man. Like to me, there is no brokers doing anything special at the end of the day. Like we're all
what differentiates us is our service, right?
It is
in
your
our
service.
relationships and ultimately like we service it and we don't give back free.
Yeah. That's the thing is because like everybody wants to say like, oh, we have technology, we have this, we have that. Your technology doesn't mean shit if you can't have trucks show up.
No.
It's that simple to me. But so many people rely on the fact like, oh, we're automated, we have this. Congratulations, can your truck show up at 2 p.m. on Friday?
Customers want communication, they want visibility,
Yes.
and that's really, in my mind, there's different customers, but overall, they want to have the ability to know where their shipment is at any given time, and they want it to show up on time.
Isn't it funny how everybody's got visibility until it's their truck running late?
Yeah,
All of a sudden
exactly.
shit doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's really
I know.
fucking odd how that happens.
I don't know. I'm trying to reach.
Oh, it's down. It's down again. So how are you handling your clients? Like, what's your guys' take for 2023? Like right now, with what you're seeing, obviously it's no surprise that the market's changing.
Right.
There's things that are happening. How are you guys working to improve your platform to handle this? Because like these last 2 years, there have been a ton of peaks and valleys. So like, how does your platform perform in that? And like, does it get smarter when these things happen to get it more and more accurate?
Absolutely, it gets smarter. And look, our product came to market at a time, unprecedented high broker rates, and it was a good time for us to come into the market. The first couple months were tough, right? Because it was just the beginning of the hockey stick for us to get it right. And I'm going to be completely honest, when the market started coming down, our algorithm reacted slower to that than we would have wanted to. But we saw it, we identified it, we worked on it, we corrected it pretty quickly. But in the meantime, and what we were seeing specifically is our customer-specific rates were the ones that were reacting slower. Our network rate that we put out there was actually performing better than the customer-specific rates. And that begged conversations with our customers like Brandon to say, look, tell your reps right now, because the market's coming down, that network market rate is actually reacting faster to the market than your rate is. So make sure your reps know that they should right now maybe put a little bit less emphasis on your target rate and pay a little bit more attention. Now, we did adapt very quickly, and now the market is what it is. But what we've learned from that is, flexible, resilient pricing strategies and giving companies the tools that they need. And, we've got more time and more data under our belt that we're able to analyze ourselves, and being able to start to look at things like win rate, and margin of error of our predictions and confidence scores and how that impacts margin. And, one of the big things that we're going to have coming out early next year is kind of elevating our solution from being just an operational tool to, expanding that to be a tool that Brandon and Josh can use to set a pricing strategy. And that strategy may change dynamic pricing, right?
Yeah.
Daily, weekly, whatever, by customer, by lane, by region, based on some of those things, win rate and margin. Maybe this week they want to optimize for volume and next week they want to optimize for margin, just based on what's doing, but then very quickly be able to operationalize those strategic pricing decisions into the hands of the people who are actually selling and booking the freight.
Yeah.
Which, allows them to be more reactive, more flexible as well to what's happening. Also because, we've been around now, we have almost 70 customers. We'll probably finish the year around 80. Our network rate is really strong. So starting to be able to do more market trending and putting that in the hands. So not just saying, hey, here's your rate for a pickup tomorrow or today or 3 days from today, but by the way, this market has been trending up, 10% over the past 2 weeks. But we're projecting it's going to trend down next week for these reasons. So kind of a little bit more advanced analytics and putting that in the hands of the users.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're watching this, rewind that.
Yes.
Play it again.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and
that's some really cool stuff. You know what I mean?
And by the way, we're doing that analysis internally, and we know what we need to do. Really now, it's just putting into our UI, right? Because we've got a whole team of data analysts and data scientists that are working on this stuff constantly, right, to understand.
So how are you working with, because I think there's going to be very few shippers that are going to rely on an annual RFP, so it's like they're going to look for quarterly or biannual rates. How would I use that? How would I use Greenscreen to like forecast out in that? Like, are you guys working on that?
Yeah.
Like, because to me, it's like, I know a lot of the freight that moves spot market, and it's like everything you're saying right now is like, this is great for that new customer, lane development, everything else. But it's like when I graduate, so like I built up this customer, we're now going into a contract for an RFP. I'm going to come to you and say, hey, the next 90 days, what's the accuracy look like?
So it's really longer term forecasting is really going to be a completely different algorithm.
Yeah.
It is something that we're looking at and working on, and it's going to take us a while to build it. But we do have our batch rating tool, which Brandon can also speak to, that he used to respond to a customer RFP and got a nice healthy award out of using that, which, it's still predicting the spot market, but it's also giving you a lot of the historical data that would allow you to respond to an RFP, because it's showing you, okay, well, here's the current spot rate, but this is what I paid 60 days ago, 90 days ago, this week, last year, type of thing. And to use that, and you guys really massaged that output very little for that bid that you did. But
yeah, I'll throw it out there. We got a $4 million award.
Oh, damn.
Using it now. Again, it's not like you just put it in there and it spits it out. There's a lot of elements that come out, and figuring out what you want to look at and how you want to look at the history and again that digging in that deep part, that's Josh's lane. I love spot freight, but I can't just look at a spreadsheet. Like, that's just not my MO, but that is his, and that's what I appreciate about him. But yeah, we won a $4 million award.
So how are you breaking down that data though, from that sense, and like are you applying that to other customers? Like, is it as simple as just like uploading like 25, 50 lanes at a time? Like, how does that work? Because it's like, for me, and I think like there's a lot of people who are going to watch this who've never filled out an RFP before. They don't even know what a strategy is to take it. And a lot of people, like, I personally believe in, you don't bid on everything in the RFP. Like, you bid on what you know you can cover, or an area or a region that you might not be completely dialed into the Dallas to Charlotte lane, but you have other regionally based receivers in there. So you kind of build out on that. I'm just like, I'm about attacking what you can actually cover.
But you give me an RFP, the first thing I'm going to look at is those crazy lanes. Like,
Yeah.
Does it go in and out of Montana or South
Yeah,
Dakota?
hell yeah.
Or like, what are them funky ones? Because if you can build a little bit of capacity around that and then get your foot in the door and perform well, that's where it's at.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that's the approach that a lot of people need to take with it. Is it's like, how do you identify? How do you break in the door? And everybody wants to move the power lanes, but like that's not going to win you business in a sense, because like those incumbent carriers, the people who have been there the longest, are going to get first access to that. And it's like, for me, it's like, if you want to get in the door with somebody, it's like, you can't ask a shipper, what's your biggest problem area? Look at a map, like, you know, and it's like, and just take that and just beat that beat those lanes down to get it dialed up, find a carrier base for it as well. And, so it's like, how do you use something like, like with Hubtek, with your guys, with your staffing and everything, because you can train carrier reps, right? And then you can get those people out there to where it's like, they're the ones who might be developing out the partnerships on those new lanes. So you're not, again, like, how do you leverage these partnerships that you currently have to maximize your output for your organizations?
Well, I mean, make a great point on that, is that there are so many different ways to skin the cat, I guess, of what it is. So it's to utilize the technology where you can, utilize the services and the partnerships that you can to say, okay, what are the problems that we have? And again, to look internally, whether it's finding people, whether it's, a labor issue, or whether it's a time and efficiency issue. I've got all these people that are spending all this time on, quoting stuff or trying to find the capacity. And so, bringing in a neutral, bringing in Greenscreens, bringing in Hubtek to find that ways to make it more efficient, so your team can really focus on growing your business and creating the strategy that you want to have for that, 2-year, 5-year plan.
Yeah, and one thing we do now, obviously we're going into Q4, but now we go in and we sell our technology play, and it's not like, oh, we have all this technology. We're really getting in front of potential customers in our current customer base, and like, here, here's what we offer.
Yeah.
Right, we have an offering based on the partnerships that we formed that we can provide, and we can help you gain efficiencies, because when we offer the real-time rating and they have the ability to hit an API and get a guaranteed rate return in under 5 seconds. They don't have to get it to their planner. They don't have to build it on the back end and put it out there to spot. They don't have to gather these rates and get approval. If they've got the stuff in place and then it's within a certain parameter, they hit it and return it and it gets tendered, that's time savings for them too.
Yeah.
Now, again, in the perfect world, we go to all these customers and they say, "Oh yeah, let's go."
Yeah, we love you.
But but it's coming. It's coming more and more. Talked about.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple customers that's like, hey, in order to be on our RFP this year, you have to provide API real-time rating to get in to become to have an opportunity as a broker on this bid. This is what you have to offer. Now, luckily, we're already there.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of people that ain't going to be getting on bids because they're not there.
Why do you think that customers have shifted to that though? Like, what's the real benefit, do you think, of? Is it so they can keep people in check?
Well, so so the loads don't go to the spot market.
Yeah.
No customer wants their loads on the spot market.
For sure, I get
So when you offer the real-time rating, depending on the customers, it go through the routing guide or where does it go, and not only and then two. So does it go the routing guide? I'll be the last person on the routing guide. If you want to hit the API, we'll guarantee that it gets covered and done. But then their loads don't go to spot, right? So it goes all the way down there. So that's time saving. That's money. That's a budgetary.
Yeah.
Saves them money.
Well, and I think they've been trained by the capacity constraints too, because the more tenders it takes for them to cover a load and the longer they have to wait, the less capacity that's going to be available to.
And the price is going to continue.
And
to
the
go
price is going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
No, it's just amazing where things are, kind of evolving into. I mean, dude, when I got in the industry, it was faxed rate confirmations and Excel. I know there's still some Excel spreadsheet RFPs that are out there. Oh yeah. But it's like the opportunity.
Well, they all are. They all are. Yeah, it might be a pretty tool, but you just hit a button and it downloads an Excel.
Yeah.
And you got to put it back in there and make sure your filters are off, and then
You got to make sure that you didn't fat finger a couple of those rates so you can stay competitive on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that's the thing is, it's like you don't need, like from a headcount perspective, you can run a lean operation from a headcount perspective and do 30, 40, 50 million a year in revenue, where you don't need 50 people. Because I know, like,
You won't be profitable if you have that many people.
No, but it's like, I know back in the day when I first got in, like they were essentially like every seat in the office needed to account for $1 million in revenue.
Right.
You know, so it's like now it's like you can cut that in half and get the exact same output through everything that's available at your disposal. And it's for probably a fraction of the cost of what an employee would actually be. And again, like I want people to have jobs and everything, but the reality is not everybody wants to work in trucking. You know, like this is one of those industries where it's like, you got about 90 days and you will know very fucking clearly within 90 days if you are going to make it on day 91 or not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sickness, like 4 of us on a couch, like, and the people that's watching this, like, there's something wrong with all of us.
100%.
Can't come back every day and just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, what's wrong with, like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's the greatest, and to me, like, I love this industry. Loved what it's done for myself, for my family. I love all the great people that I've met and formed
Yeah,
relationships.
hell yeah.
Like, I will tell you, like, I love it with all my heart. But and I know that you guys can agree. There's some days whenever I go home or I leave and I'm like, why in the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
We were
Like, I don't know
talking
what's
about that
going
on the
on.
drive
And then
over.
you wake
Like-
up the next day and you're like, oh, here we go.
All right, let's fucking go. Groundhog's Day every day of the week, 365 days out of the year.
Yeah.
It's like 10-second Tom from fucking 50 First Dates. Like that's the mentality you gotta have. Hi, I'm Tom.
Well, you have
Hi, I'm
to.
Tom.
I mean, you have to, or you kind of go insane on
Block it
right?
out. Yeah, just
Yeah.
block it out. And
But I mean, the cool and the fun thing is, and you know, from a provider standpoint, is our job is to make it so you have less stress, and that you can
love
continue
your
to do
job.
this, continue to do this,
Yeah,
and then
and-
bring more people into it.
Yeah, and to your point, like what you said, yeah, I think still today, like people would be happy for $1 million a head. Obviously, the more the better.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you're always trying to be more efficient, whether that's EDI, whether that's pricing, RPA, all of that. But just like you said, technology's not going to replace people. It's just going to enhance the amount and give you the ability to do more, because again, margin compression throughout time will continue to happen. Those margins will get thinner, and so you have to be able to automate and do stuff fast.
Yeah, and I've never met a sales rep who looks at themselves and be like, God, I wish I could work slower to make less money, and take on less freight.
Yeah, Rod, our sales guy, goes, when are they doing a tabby for sales? He's
Yeah.
like, can they just do all my cold calling? And I was like,
We're working on it.
That's the thing is, it's
Yeah.
like you should do that, because it's like, again, back to like when I say 95% of our day should be automated, because like we should be able to have more output. Like I remember the first time I got a customer that had EDI capabilities, and it was like we went from moving 5 loads a day to 25 loads in the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it just came through, and all of a sudden there's 25 loads that are just built up and ready to go, and I'm like, fucking A, let's roll.
Well, we got to have automation, and not only in transportation, but like there's a workforce labor shortage. Like the baby boomers are retiring and have retired. COVID, like
why'd you look at me when you said baby boomers?
I was not looking at you.
That just got awkward.
No, I was not. I was trying to engage.
We
Gen
need more
X.
wine over here.
Yeah.
More wine, please.
Yeah.
A bottle of wine.
Gen X. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was born in '86. They say I'm a millennial, but I don't feel like I'm a
I
millennial.
graduated high school in '86.
Really?
Oh, perfect. I was born in '86 too.
See? Maybe I am.
I'm right there with you.
All right.
I was 89 though. That's what it goes.
Okay, so now that we got our ages out of the way, we have struggled. I mean, to find talent, and we have remote employees. But the point of it is, like, even Elon Musk talks about it. Like, people think, oh, the robots are going to take our jobs. No, bullshit. Like, there's a lot of jobs out there you just don't want to work.
Yeah.
So we're engineers and advancement, like technology, like automation has to be there. And I think in order for us to continue to grow and thrive, because people aren't having kids the same way they did. The baby boomers, like, again, I'm going off on a tangent here, but there's not enough people, and there's a lot more jobs than what people really realize.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's like you can find it, but like, what's your philosophy on developing over hiring for experience? Because I think like a lot of people take it as, hey, this person has 10 years experience or 12 years experience in the industry. I've always found it like I want to develop talent, because I feel like you know, again, I can teach anybody anything they need to know about freight, but I can't teach a work ethic. And just because you have 15 years experience in an industry doesn't mean that you're fucking good at your job. And I think that that's a lot of it that's out there is it's like, I believe in that homegrown feel to it and bringing people on. And then it's also like, because, you know, again, like what if you have somebody with 15 years experience who are like, I'm not going to use Greenscreen because I'm better than that fucking algorithm,
Exactly.
whatever fancy tool it is, or, oh, Tabby.
magic.
Yeah, what is
I
Tabby?
love
That doesn't do shit for me. You know, so it's like bringing people in and then like setting the tone for, hey, we are going to run lean. We are a technology focused company, so we can focus on customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to, from a company or leadership standpoint, though, you know, that person with 10 years, if you just, hey, this is where we're going. We want you to be involved, and we want you here. But we are making some changes. You know, again, we appreciate your time here, but you know, you can't accept no. I'm not going to do it for an answer.
Yeah.
You know, you know, however you want to skin that cat, or however you want to politely say it, but you know, you guys run companies. If someone said, hey, I'm not going to do it, well, are they still the right fit for this company? You know,
And that goes back to the
that's a
change
tough conversation.
management
Yeah.
that I asked about earlier, yeah.
You know, everybody wants progress, but no one wants change.
Yeah. Oh, it's true.
Well, and it's funny, Chris, because we were at one of our TMS partners user group meeting a couple weeks ago, and Kevin, our sales guy, asked somebody in the audience who was not our customer, and he said, hey, would you take a new rep and put them in a seat and give them the way that you price freight today, because they're not a Greenscreens customer, and just let them start quoting customers? And the guy was like, hell no, right? And then Kevin looked at one of our customers and said, could you do that with Greenscreens? And they said, yeah. They're able to bring in a new rep and put them in a seat, and you know, maybe not day one, but week two, right? Train them on Greenscreens and let them run. And you know, part of what we do, that's the AI and the ML, is codifying the knowledge of that 10, 15-year veteran who can price freight all day, every day, and enabling a new rep to, you know, be able to do that as well.
To piggyback on top of that, whenever you have your API and it's bidding, you know, anytime that you know, make any changes or you move accounts around, or you know, maybe that person is out for a week for vacation, or they get sick, like, guess who usually has to jump in and start bidding?
Yeah.
Either they're their account managers or who your pricing person is, but guess what? We ain't got to do that anymore, because the robot's always bidding.
Yeah.
Never misses an opportunity.
See, and that's the
About
thing.
60 a day.
Is it's like, maybe you can answer this. Do you ask your prospects, do they track lost revenue of lost opportunities because nobody's actually quoting the loads?
It's a conversation we frequently have, and the answer is usually no, we don't, we can't. And a lot of our customers are now able to start doing that, and that's, you know, one of the benefits that they get in, certainly with the combination of Tabby and Greenscreens. And we have some minimal, you know, quoting capabilities by email within our system as well, but that's huge, being able to show them, did you know what your win rate was before you started using Tabby and Greenscreens?
No. I mean, did we do better in GP this month, or did we not? That's how we do.
I mean, most
But I mean, even just
companies
from-
don't know
Yeah,
what
I
their
got it.
win
From the
rate is.
real time perspective, I mean, again, yeah, most companies are at like, you know, 1 or 2 or 3%.
Win rate? Or?
Yeah, of total opportunities
Yeah.
that they have access to.
Yeah. And it was eye-opening for us too. So when we started partnering up and integrating, and we get a lot of resources from Hubtek too on now that the API is in. So not only are, you know, it's feeding the Greenscreens, but we have this you know, cool little report, I'm sure it's Power BI, but still it's all of our data, and through those customers that it's quoting, we're able to see you know, lanes, how many times. And so then you can go to customers, and we've done this and said, hey, like, I've seen this on the spot market for the last 3 weeks. We've bid it this many times, you know, can we contract it? They said no for a different reason.
Yeah.
But what they did say is like, hey, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Like, we really appreciate you coming and wanting to pull it off the spot board. I think that particular lane was like a different business unit, and they couldn't contract it. But having the data of like winning, bidding those opportunities, and being able to take action on that to your customers what we've started to do, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, talking about that right there, how many customers have you brought that exact scenario to, and they're like, yeah, we can take it off the spot market?
So, I honestly, again, it took us a while to get everything up and going, get some data. We've only recently started doing that, so I don't want to lie to you and say
No, for sure, but like I think people need to understand that you can have that conversation with your customers. Like,
Yeah.
I've had that throughout my career. Like, yeah, we didn't have the technology and the wherewithal to take care of it back then, but like you can have that conversation, especially if you have data behind you, and you can bring them and say, hey, listen, this is the consistent rate. Like, you can identify that through this and then bring that to them and be like, hey, I can with confidence quote you this price for the next 60 days. Can we contract this?
And you can even say, hey, I've quoted this like 40 times and I haven't won it yet. Like, where am I at? Like,
Yeah.
where's
Where do
the
I need to
miss?
be? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's neat. To ever think even like 2 years ago that we would be bidding, between 40 and 70 loads without touching it, and then being able to have the data to go and give it to our customers, and then having the confidence based on parameters that we put in our history, tie all that together. Like, it's really wild if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're going to keep leaning on that and pushing on that. I really feel strongly, and it's going to take a long time, but there's going to come a point in time where there's not going to be spot boards.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's going to be all API, because why would they?
Yeah.
Now, again, we're fragmented, and there's
for sure.
but talking about the big ones, like
Yeah.
they won't have a spot board here. You have to hook into our API.
Well, so that's interesting, and I don't disagree with you, but what does that do to the owner-operator, smaller carrier? And Chris, I know you're really passionate about that.
I think it would almost help them because it's going to level. I think it's going to remove a lot of the peaks and the valleys of it, and I think it would almost bring more of a consistency to a pricing model, because there isn't a need to go out there and source a new provider or anything like that, because everybody's going to be kind of held to that exact same standard. I think if anything, it would raise the spot rates up. If that's the case, because then no one's gonna, like right now, people are buying up market share, right? So what do? They go in and they lower their rates to the point so that where they own the market.
Yeah.
That's gonna almost eliminate it, because.
But what about the carriers that's where they source their business from?
Well,
is from
I
the
think
load
like
boards.
there will still be a same day opportunity that comes out, but that's going to give them an opportunity to where, as a broker, I'm going to feel less inclined to ever push that price down, because I know no one's going to take it at that point. So I think carriers, like, it's essentially going to have to shift the broker's focus into being like, hey, we got to be consistently building up a database on these lanes. We have to build up our network, and we have to rely on that, because we can't play the typical fucking song and dance of, oh, just throw it up in the spot market, let's try and drive that price down and make a couple extra $100 on that load today. We're not going to have any freight at that point. Right.
You guys might know this, and I don't know. You talk about owner ops and smaller carriers. How many of them are actually on those spot boards?
I don't think any.
And I'm just wondering.
Well, not
because-
bidding directly on the shipper freight, but that's where they're getting their loads from, isn't it? A lot of the smaller owner ops, no?
So
Through
in my
the
in my
dispatch
opinion,
services?
in my opinion, no. A lot of them live on
DAT and ITS.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't.
Oh, yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm not talking about the shipper spot board.
Oh, you're talking about like
I am
that.
talking about DAT
Yes.
and ITS. and
Okay.
so, yeah. So maybe you guys were saying that the shipper load boards go away. But
Yes, I didn't mean
Okay.
that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think the shipper, those
the
those
shipper
spot
load.
spot
boards.
Gotcha.
I think at some point they will say, like, in order for you to have access to overflow, you have to hook into our real-time rating
Got it.
API.
Okay.
And so that it won't ever be out there. And so yeah, the brokers and whoever will still get spot opportunities, but it wouldn't be on board.
Okay.
Does that make
Got it.
sense?
I misunderstood the statement
Yeah,
then.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
What is in store for, obviously you've built a brand, you do your morning, you do,
Yeah.
obviously your podcasting, but like, where are you trying to be in 3 years? Because you've done an amazing job of, growing your brand, networking, getting out there, and like it's been awesome to see. But what's next for you? Like, what's your ambitions?
Well, I mean, we just got the freight brokerage up and running. So Freight Coach Logistics is up and running.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
We're building that up, and my legitimate plan is to hit the 100 million mark in 5 years. That's my goal.
I'll get some pricing software for you.
Well, exactly.
We get some
And
tools
you guys
for you
got
as well.
But for me, it's like, again, like what we were talking about is I want to develop people out, and I want to reach that next generation of transportation professionals, get them excited. And that's what I'm leveraging the brand that I have built is to, through social media, reaching that people. I want people to get excited about freight because they see my stuff and other content creators in the industry, and just leveraging that, because again, it's like we have an aging driver workforce. We got to get the next generation of people in, and where are they at? They're on social media, so why are we not doing it? And frankly, I want to change the perception that freight brokers have in the industry as a whole, because not everybody's the Brandon Bays and the Josh Kales out there who are doing the right thing, and we need to collectively do that. And frankly, with a lot of the content that I put out, I was sick of sitting on the sidelines. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fucking do it, and I'm going to build it up. And, frankly, if anybody who ever watches this laughs and says, good luck, I'm just fucking watch me. That's my mentality with all of this stuff, is fucking watch me, And it's like, I love when people are like, are you sure? Fuck yeah, I'm sure. It's just, there's no better time than right now to go after it, because it's like, why wait? Why, when you started Greenscreen, when you got in there and said, fuck it, I'm going to go do it, all the doubt that creeps in your head early, it doesn't go away. But I'll never regret any of this. If everything fucking implodes in 5 years from now, I will never regret what I'm doing right now. But I know I will get there a hell of a lot faster when I start over because of the skills that I'm developing today.
As long as you learn something from it, right?
You got to take chances, and I think everybody in any role, you're talking about like imposter syndrome, or you feel, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I belong here.
Yeah.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
And then two, what drives you? Like, okay, well, for the longest time in my life, what drove me was the fear of failure and to prove people wrong because of my ego, right? Yeah. And one thing that I'm really trying to work on now is just self working on myself, not only as a leader, but as a person, but then really keeping myself in check on like, what else do I have to prove? Mm-hmm. I don't have to prove to my wife anymore. I don't have to prove to myself. Like I feel like
you do have to prove to your wife. This is an ongoing thing for.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is like, I think what you're doing is great. Don't do it to prove other people wrong.
Oh,
do it.
I'm doing it to prove that I can do what I know I'm fully fucking capable of. And like what drives me the most now is it's like, because my son, he sees this and he's gonna be able to look back on this time and be like, when the world fell apart with all the bullshit that went on with COVID and everything else, he's gonna be able to say like, that's the moment that my dad changed his fucking life. So.
Did y'all see that quote today that speaker put on there, and it was talking about the world changing?
Oh yeah, from 1833.
From 1883. If you were to remove that 1883, would you have thought that it was
I didn't
different than today? Did you see that?
I didn't see it.
No, it was basically that, science is shooting stuff out too fast. It was all about the speed at which things were happening and that, how can we keep going when everything is coming at you so fast? And it was from 1833. Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
I have
crazy.
it.
But it is, it's one day at a time. Like you can't fucking worry about tomorrow, and so many people are focused on the what ifs. It's like, fucking what if, like anything could fucking happen at any given moment, and it's like, I guess the older I get, and Don, I'm sorry, I know you graduated high school when I was born, but I've reached that age. But
you just had to bring it up again.
I know. I had to. But you guys have both reached that age at some point where like people you grew up with started to die, and like your loved ones started to die, and you're like, all right, tomorrow literally isn't, and it changes your fucking perspective on things. And that's what really kicked me in the ass is, because my dad died unexpectedly. It'll be a year in December. And I'm like, holy fuck, because my dad was 66 years old. I'm 36, and I'm like, what if I only have 30 years left? Like, am I literally gonna not go for everything I want in life at the fear of what some fucking douchebag behind a computer would talk in? None of these motherfuckers are gonna say it to my face, you know? They'll gladly talk shit behind it, but who fucking cares? And if that deters you, somebody else's opinion, if that deters you from going after what you want in life, you don't fucking want it. You know, so it's like, to me, it's like, I'm not going to wait anymore for anything. I'm not going to seek out the approval from anybody else. I'm going to go after what I want in life and do my best to be the best fucking dad and husband on earth. That's my fucking tunnel vision.
Bravo.
Yeah, I used to come in, and what drove me was a fear of failure, and trying to prove myself. But as I've gotten older, and now that I have children, and now my number one job is to be a husband.
Yeah.
The best husband that I can be, and to be the best father that I know how to be. All this other stuff is very important, and I look at things a lot differently now. Like, even with the people that I lead, and then it's a whole different perspective on life.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm 36 statistically, unless Elon Musk and all these tech. Really, I could. By statistics,
yeah.
I'm almost halfway through my life, so
exactly.
It definitely changes things. I mean, there was a point where I didn't think would even see 30. So
yeah.
But no, this quote says, "The world is too big for us. Too much is going on. Too many crimes. Too much violence and excitement. Try as you will, you get behind it. Get behind in the race in spite of yourself. It's an incessant strain to keep pace, and still you lose ground. Science amplifies its discoveries on you so fast, you stagger beneath them in hopeless bewilderment. The political world is news changing so rapidly that you're out of breath trying to keep pace with who's in and who's out. Everything is high pressure. Human nature can't endure much more." 1883.
Wow.
Like, that's fucking nuts.
It's goosebumps because
that's today. Like, that's literally today's climate out.
Yeah.
It just shows, and he was making jokes about it was a rough day. Somebody you didn't know knocked on the farm door, but still, I mean, that the world that we live in, it's always seems to be faster than what we're capable of handling.
Just take the red pill.
Yeah.
The red pill.
Thanks, Neil.
Well, that's, if you haven't read it, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and it was written, I think, back in the late 1800s or early 1900s, but it was almost like talking about today, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting. Yeah, my favorite book ever.
I'll have to read that one.
The Brave New World is
A Brave New
World,
World,
yep.
Aldous
Check
Huxley.
that out. Yeah.
It was required reading, but
Turned out to be
When we were younger, we had to read
turned out
that.
to be
Yeah.
my favorite book.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, so.
I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and I know that you've been in the TMS space, and now you're lead. Like your career, were you always trying to get where you are, or did you have aspirations to be in the role that you are? Or?
No, never. Kind of like you, there were points in my life where I didn't think I was going to make it to 30, but no, look, I was a young mother. I started my career. I was the admin to the vice president of transportation at TJ Maxx. I didn't know the difference between a tractor and a trailer when I started working there. I was like, which one pulls it? But I learned a lot under his mentorship and tutelage, and learned a lot about the business, and moved into an operations role. And he took me with him to his next company, and we bought a TMS, and I learned more about TMS. And then that TMS vendor said, hey, why don't you come work for us as a product manager? No, none of the roles that I've had over most of my career were ever an aspiration of mine. And you talked about imposter syndrome. I've had it many times along the way, and it's like, wow, do I really belong here? But I crushed every goal that I had set for myself, and then it was like, well, maybe I need to start setting bigger goals, right? But no, look, even when I was offered the position to be CEO at Greenscreens, I said, no, I don't want to be CEO, no. And honestly, it took the board a year to convince me. So when I joined as interim CEO and chief product officer, because product is what I'm very comfortable with. And then after a year, the board was kind of like, all right, are you over that yet? Are you ready to be the CEO now? And I was like, okay, cool. I'll be the CEO.
It's crazy. I thought you were I thought you founded Greenscreens. Like you're so synonymous with the brand to me that I
You are
thought,
Greenscreens now.
Yeah.
Well, thank
No,
you,
it's
guys.
true. I
No,
thought you
so
did.
when I joined, it was pretty much, it was an idea, a great idea, a hypothesis. There was a product that was in its early stages, and we were working with NFI and Gulf Relay and a few other customers, really more in a beta stage and building out the algorithm. And, you know, confidence score I don't think existed when I joined. And but the founders, Ben, actually, I was not interviewing, I was introduced to him I was a consultant. I had left my previous job. You know, I was kind of like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go be a consultant. And I was introduced to Ben. And my plan was to consult with him within his portfolio companies, like as he was doing due diligence or things like that. And we met and he's like, hey, why don't you take a look at this company, Greenscreens, and let me know what you think. And I was really intrigued. And he was like, great, we're trying to find a CEO. Do you want to join the company? And I was like, nope. And I had put together, you know, here's my 8-week proposal of my 8-week consulting engagement, and here's what I'll help the team do. And he's like, no, we're looking for a CEO. Do you want to join? I was like, no,
Yeah.
I really don't. But and I don't regret it for a minute. By the way, it's been a wonderful experience, and I've learned so much, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's key. You can never stop learning.
No.
Right? Never stop learning.
You know, and when you get into leadership, like you always have to be learning. I tell people all the time, like, leadership is hard. It's challenging, and it's every day, and we all mess up. By all means, like I mess up all the time and have to do better. But people think, oh, I want to be a manager. I want to get like it's hard. It's harder. I go get freight. Like I can do that. You know, that's
absolutely.
But just learning how to be a leader, and then getting feedback, and like I love hearing people's stories of like progression and how things come about, and you know it's really neat. You know, you're in a newer role at Hubtek, but before you came up in the compliance world, right, for a long time?
No, actually, so I started as a company called Fritz Companies, International Freight Forwarding. So I'm a licensed customs broker, and was all in freight forwarding and customs for 5 years, and then Fritz was bought by UPS. So I was Brown for a period of time, and then went to kind of warehouse management and ran a division down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and realized I didn't like Tulsa, Oklahoma very much. And then actually, so while I was with Fritz Companies, one of the people that we used for transloading and managing our transportation was a broker in southern Missouri or southern Illinois called AM Transport. And so I went and got a chance to join them, and that's how I really started getting into this side of things. And while I was there, Joel McGinley was became my coach at that point in time. And so started really, we started growing that business. And then I decided stupidly at age 45 to get my MBA, which was, a great experience, but it was like, I just wanted to do that. That was one of those things I set a goal for myself that I was going to go ahead and do this. And then when I was done, I'm like, I want to try something different. And so then I started selling for Joel in that environment from a coaching perspective. Did that, and then we started Hubtek in late 2018. We had the strategy for it, and then kind of split off. We were going to sell trans strategy stuff through TIA, and then Hubtek started. So I actually was an employee of Hubtek for 2 weeks back in 2019 to kind of get everything set up from a Insperity standpoint and get everybody placed. I think I put together all like the pre-marketing of everything at that point in time, even though I wasn't a marketer on that. So the little magnet on Hubtek was my idea back then. And then I went to go work for TIA. After about a year of that, I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got into compliance. So I went to go work for it, and I was just sort of an area salesperson. So I had Missouri, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas was my territory for that, and just kind of selling compliance on that side of things. And did that for 2 years and realized that I don't really like selling either.
Yeah.
Directly on those things and kind of the responsibility. I always talk to Joel on that, and he said, hey, we want somebody to, kind of, we need customer success. We need to help sort of move that along. And so I came back and joined with that, sort of set up the plan of what customer success looks like and that's kind of how I got introduced to you guys.
Yeah.
And then they said, we need somebody to lead the marketing team on that. And so that's kind of, there's my career path.
Great
So,
story. So Chris Jolly,
Yes.
are we going to see the freight coach?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I'm definitely gonna do it. You know, I don't know. Like I'm probably gonna look into like a Sprinter van first, but I want to get like a full-on 53-foot fucking trailer, like a NASCAR setup. And
Go
have
buy an
that
old school
shit.
bus. You can get an old school bus with an old Detroit.
I understand,
And
but
you got it.
aesthetically, I want the fucking full-on setup.
Well,
Like
yeah.
I think it'd be badass to have
The
that.
Airstream.
Yeah,
Those are expensive.
They are. They're bad.
They're not. No, well, no, they're very well like
Are
put
they
together.
more expensive than a 53-foot trailer and a tractor? No.
well, I was going to say, you get a super orange
You can write it off for
sleeper
your business. So it's,
Exactly.
tractor, and then the
I just think
trailer
it'd be
is the
sweet.
full one.
It's not about like if I'm making that decision, the price isn't necessarily on my fucking mind. It's we're building this fucker out and this is what it's gonna look like.
No, I think you do need to do it like, the luxury tour bus, right?
That'd
Like
be fucking sweet.
freight coach.
Exactly.
freight coach.
That'd be fucking sweet.